living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep. The poor and the underclass are growing. Racial justice and human rights are non-existent. We have been lulled into a trance. They have made us indifferent to ourselves, to others. We are focused only on our own gain. That is their primary method of survival. Keep us asleep, keep us selfish, keep us sedated.
You're listening to Toward Anarchy on the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here's your host, Michael Storm.
Welcome to the show. I am your host, Michael Storm. This is Toward Anarchy. Thank you so much for joining me. It's something we do here on the Republic Broadcasting Network every Sunday, 1 to 3 p.m. Central Time, specifically Central Time. And I don't know if you want to call it Central Daylight Time or Central Standard Time. I know I was writing CST for the longest time, and then I looked, and people write CDT now. It's the Central Daylight Time now. And, well, okay, I guess as long as people know what you mean when you put the time up there. There's a lot of hours in a day just to say, oh, I'll be on shortly in an hour or something like that and not be specific about it. I have this thought in my mind at the moment because just before the show, the first thing that I do is I hit all of the social media places and I post about the show, and I try to post a link, and I try to put it in as many groups and places. I didn't used to make as much effort as I do now because, well, sometimes people are offended by it. You tag people or you post in their group, and it's their little private group, and they didn't want your thing, and so you have to either want to be in the group and not violate it or not offend that person and have them a chance to unfriend you or something like that. This is the social media game today. This is what we do, and so it took me a while before I was at a point where, you know what, I'm posting this everywhere in front of every face that I can, as many times as I can. And it's come on fairly recently because I've been looking at the numbers, watching all this stuff, watching the 25,000 plus visitors to the website over the last couple of months, and what that means and how they got there, and you know what the next step is in this thing, because I come here every week, and it's kind of like this. Okay, I don't have necessarily anything better to do from 1 to 3 p.m. Central Time on a Sunday. I like football, but I don't necessarily care to watch it unless my favorite team is playing. And since I don't live where my favorite team is, I don't get to see my favorite team unless I pay a bunch of extra money. And football's just not, you know, National Football League, it's just not worth that much effort for me to watch. If it's there, it's easy for me to do. I'll do it. It's even harder now. I can't imagine trying to participate in football, go to a game. I've been to a few NFL games in my life, living in Denver, getting to go to Mile High Stadium and doing the whole fan thing, a couple of times in my life. And I can't imagine trying to do that. Now, this whole social thing, this whole social distancing, COVID-19, the forced vaccinations that are coming, all this stuff, of course, is heavy on everybody's mind. And my neighbor, I ran into him coming home the other night, and I hadn't talked to him recently. Apparently, he's been home. He got diagnosed. He just come out of 2 weeks of quarantine, which tells you how often we run into each other and talk to each other. We literally live right next door to each other, and we like each other. We get along fine. But he invited me over the other night, and we just chatted for a couple of minutes, and he offered me a beer, and couldn't. I was headed out. I still had driving to do. It just not a good thing to do. I've been popped for DUI a couple of times in my life, just having had a drink and then driven the car. So it's not worth it to me, not for an IPA. Although it was supposed to be a really good one. But we were talking about that, and then he's like, well, I'm headed off to the club. He's a single man in his mid-50s. hasn't been married in a long, long time. His daughter is full grown, on her second child, pregnant with her second child now, married a few years. So he's as empty nest and as single as it gets. He rides a Harley. He's out there, and he goes to the club as often as he can, and hangs out with his buddies and drinks some beers. And he's a hometown boy. He was born and raised here in Topeka, or the majority of his life here at any rate. And so he knows people here. He has roots here. And we were talking about the possibility of going anywhere now. And I'm like, man, if you had asked me to go out, one of the places that he goes, the Blind Tiger here in Topeka, Kansas, is an amazing restaurant. It's a restaurant and brewery. One of those kind of places where you can see the big, all the equipment and everything that they use. You can walk over it and look down on it, and it's all glass walled in, and you can see everything that they're doing as they're brewing, and the brewmasters are working their magic, and they serve up some pretty decent food. And so that's his one of his main hangouts, and I would go hang out there. Absolutely, no problem. Before COVID, you ask me now to go to some place. I don't even want to go to Walmart. I can't do it. It's tough for me. I'm the only one not wearing a mask. It's somebody. I saw this earlier as I was posting on the social media, just as I was getting ready to pop on the show, and somebody said something about that exact same thing. Where are all these people who are against the mask mandates? Because I don't see you. And I said that weeks ago. Just wandering around, I don't see it. But every once in a while there'd be one or two other people in the store that are obviously not okay. That's not true, because you can't just look at someone and assume that you know what their health is. So my assumption is, by looking at them, that they are otherwise healthy individuals, and that there is no medical reason why they are not wearing their mask. They're not wearing their mask because they don't want to. They don't, for whatever reason it is. And it makes me very uncomfortable wandering around the store. I finally had somebody try to throw me out of a store this week. It was the first time. I had been told that I couldn't come in to one store. This is even a friend's business, but he wasn't there at the time. They stopped me on the way in and offered me a mask, and I refused it. And they said, "Well, you're not going in." And then I said, "Well, fine, then I'll go spend my money somewhere else." And I literally did. And I haven't brought it up with my friend because I don't care. If he doesn't know his business well enough to know that the people that are behind his counter are doing that, then it's his problem. And there's a lot more history there than that. But so that's the only. I've never had one of these Karens come up to me and tell me that I needed to have a mask on. Nobody's ever said anything. I've been in places like Best Buy. I've been in Walmart. I've been in Dillon's. I've been to all the different gas stations around. Nobody said anything to me. I don't know. People look at me funny all the time anyway. I don't know why. It's a mannerism, the way I carry myself. I walk with my head up. I'm not a predator. I tend to carry a gun. Sometimes I'm dressed all in black and leather, and I look a little bit scared. I don't know. Maybe there is a reason why people will notice me and give me a second glance. And so maybe that's all that is. Maybe it's in my imagination. Who knows? But every once in a while, see one of them that just kind of, you think maybe they might want to say something, but they don't. Nobody does. And it didn't occur until just this last week that somebody actually tried to throw me out of the store. It was Pizza Hut, which is weird in and of itself, because it's not even a restaurant. It's not a place. It's not a place where I have to go in and stay or anything. I just literally was walking in to pick up done pizzas. All I had to do was walk in. They hand me the boxes. I turn around and walk out. I didn't even have to breathe in there. It could happen so quickly. Let alone speak or spit all over something or spread some germs. I wouldn't even touch anything else. Not anything that they weren't supposed to be already cleaning based on restaurant restrictions and all this stuff anyway, just to handle to get in the door. That'd be the most of it. I don't even touch the counters. I make it a point not to touch the counters any place that I go anymore. I've told you before, I'm already this close to being a germaphobe as it is. I don't push me. Don't push me over the edge. And these people want to push me over the edge. I get into the Pizza Hut, and of course, I've already paid for my pizza, so we have a problem already. You've already taken my money. I don't care what your excuse is, whether it's a mandate, a law, or whatever. You took my money. You owe me a service or a product, or we're going to have a problem. And so I go into the store. No big deal. The lady at the counter is not looking at me as she asks me what I need. And I say, pick up for pizza, that one right there, number 375 or whatever it was on the screen there. And then she turns around and looks at me and she says, you're going to have to get a mask. And I said, no, just give me my pizza and I'll get out of here. And she said, no. And it turned into a big deal, back and forth, just this ridiculous exchange. And I did exactly what I told you I would do if somebody bothered me with this mask thing, and that's I'm carrying a firearm. And it is illegal for me to wear a mask and carry a firearm. I've seen cops doing it. Fine. They're above the law. They do what the hell they want to do. I don't see anybody else. I don't see citizens walking around, even when they're not in class. I noticed it, in fact, yesterday, coming out of Walmart. It was a plainclothes person with his family, but it was a cop. He had his badge, a detective or something like that. He had his badge. He was wearing a mask, and he had his gun and everything. That's the only person I've seen carrying a gun that was wearing a mask. He obviously thought he was above the law, because the law is you can't carry a gun and wear a mask. And so I openly carry a firearm, and this lady's telling me, well, you have to have a mask. And I just look at her and I say, ma'am, it's illegal for me to wear a mask and carry a gun. Well, you shouldn't carry your gun. Well, but my carrying a gun is a protected legal right. The mask mandate is an illegal dictate by an out-of-control governor. So basically what I'm saying is I'll see you, the governor, Pizza Hut Corporation, Pepsi-Cola Corporation, and anybody else in federal court over my gun rights before I put on a mask. You took my money. Give me my pizza, and I'll leave your store. Some lady behind her, well, tell him he can't have his gun in the store. Don't tell me the law. The law in the state of Kansas is if you don't want me to carry a gun in your store, and Pepsi is fine with this law because they abide by it. They're like Walmart. They go with local laws when it comes to people arming themselves in their stores. And you have to post on the door that you can't carry a firearm in their store. If you don't want somebody to carry a firearm on your property, a place that's open to the public, a grocery store, or your business, otherwise where people come in and buy your services or products, if you don't want them to carry a gun in your store, you have to put a magical sign. They're amazing. They're these white square signs with red lettering, and it's just this circle with a line through it, and it shows a gun crossed out by that. It's a red circle and line with the gun crossed out, and magically that keeps people from carrying guns in your store. I was blown away. I couldn't believe it. I had no idea that you could print up a piece of vinyl and stick it on your door and keep people from carrying a firearm in your store. But apparently it works, and these stores never get robbed. Nobody ever carries a gun under their belt. I don't do it. I would never, ever violate somebody's if I have to go. Generally, when there's something like that on the door, I won't go in the store. That's all there is to it. But if I'm already on it, like the post office is one of those things where it's a quasi government, but it's a private entity, but it's protected, and you're not supposed to carry a gun in there and all that. I can't leave my gun in my car. That was that was with the other thing. After I said that she had to have the sticker on the door, that it already had to be posted and noted that you could ask me to leave, but nobody ever actually asked me to leave. And then, of course, we run into the problem where they've already taken my money, so they actually owe me something. So no, we're not getting me out of the store on that property claim because you took my property first. You already violated me or are attempting to violate me. To hell with your property rights at that point. You've already pushed that button. You've already dismissed the notion that I should respect your property rights. In any sense of the word. And the mask mandate doesn't count because the mask mandate is a mandate. It's not a law. It's not something they have to follow. It's something they choose to follow. So I won't put up with it. She turned to her and whispered in her ear again, and she said, well, tell him to leave it in the car. I just looked there and I said, what the hell is wrong with you? That is the most irresponsible nonsense I've ever heard. The same, that's funny. I didn't even think about that, but it just connected right now in my head. That same friend that owns that business that his employees wouldn't let me in without a mask that day. He's one of these morons who left a gun in his car, multiple guns in his car, and they were stolen out of his car. It was a big thing here in Topeka about 5 years ago. There was a group of people going around specifically breaking into cars looking for firearms. And this friend of mine and his wife both left their firearms in the car, hundreds and hundreds of dollars, high quality fire, not the modest $200 firearms I'm buying. We're talking $500, $600, $700, $800, $900 Glocks and things like that, and stolen out of their vehicle because they didn't lock their doors, and they live in the nice part of town. No, it's irresponsible, an irresponsible suggestion, and I'm offended by it. And the fact is that ultimately you took my money, you owe me a product. I wouldn't have been in here 2 seconds if you just handed it to me and let me go out the door. Instead, you want to try to be a Karen or whatever you are. You want to try to be a little dictator. It's funny because the one that was whispering in the ear of the manager that night, the one that was arguing with me, the one that was whispering in her ear, I've been in there to pick up pizza with no mask on before, and she hasn't said jack. Not a thing. So what happened was the little Karen, the little manager with isn't it Karen supposed to be seeing managers? Oh, well. This Karen manager, whatever, she gets on a little power trip and decides she's going to tell me. There's literally nobody else even in the store at the moment. No. Am I wrong? Was there one little old guy in a mask sitting way over there, far from me, not anywhere near where I was, certainly outside of that 6 foot distance. You know, it was funny that it finally happened, but I'm not going anywhere, and that was the point of that. I wouldn't go to a bar right now. There's no way I would go to a bar and sit there and have some libations and be around drunken rednecks. I mean, face it, I'm here in Topeka, Kansas, and I already don't hold the political views of 90% or more of the people on the planet, let alone a particular subset of the people that I would be likely to encounter in a redneck bar in a redneck town. You see what I'm getting at? There's no way. Absolutely no way. I already feel out of place. I don't smoke. I mean, I have my cheap cigars, but I don't smoke those a lot. So I just always feel out of place. I'm not a heavy drinker, so I'm not there to party, really get drunk. I would feel really out of place. And then top it off with COVID and people pushing that nonsense. I'll come back after the break, and I'll tell you about what's happening here on the show today. Is that what you were talking about? All right. I wasn't sure because I didn't know. I'm going to talk about a bunch of TV stuff here in a little bit, so I didn't even know if maybe I mentioned something and you just were jumping in. But yeah, specific. Yeah, right. You got it. You psychic. He knows what's coming. No, I love that show. The Prisoner was great. I remember watching it as a kid. Of course, it's older than I am. One of the few things on the planet that is anymore, it seems like. What a fantastic show. I always loved that show. It was quirky and weird. It was really an example of television and thought and pop culture of its time. I really enjoyed The Prisoner. It's one of my favorites. I'd like to be able to watch it again, but I guess you probably have to have like BBC or something like that, and I just don't have BBC. I don't. It's not there. There's a bunch of other stuff though. I will talk about it. Let me tell you what's going on. Go to towardanarchy.com as always. Like, share, follow, subscribe, friend. Just you have to do these things, and this is why I've been looking at these numbers and the craziness, and why I'm taking the week off this week. I guess I'm not. I don't have a guest today. There's nobody planned. I could have very easily grabbed somebody. I've been on an amazing streak. It's funny because if you go to towardanarchy.com, you look for what I'm planning to do today. You look for November 22nd. You see after weeks of huge guests and thousands of visitors to the website, and they're sort of uncounted, and we don't even try. I don't think they're uncountable really number of listeners. That's one of the things I've been looking at is trying to figure out how to count how many people actually listen to the podcast on the back end of it. I mean, we have a little bit, some idea, for the live presentation, and the network watches some of that stuff, and they have some of their numbers. But then there's all these others that are watching it on the back, all these other places, Spotify and things like that. And there's just not really any way to count all those. Some of those places don't even offer that as an option to be able to tell you how many people have listened to your podcast. Most of them don't. A lot of them are just aggregators. They're just grabbing podcasts. We're on all of these different apps, and every single one of them you go is one of the things I was doing this week was looking for these other apps and looking for the top apps and the top places that people are listening to this stuff to keep pushing it, to keep getting it out there. Why you have to like and share and subscribe and everything. And I'm finding that so many of them, they're just aggregators. It's almost all of them are built on the iTunes back. So I'm already there, so that's all covered. And then there's a couple others. There's the Spotify, and there's Amazon has their thing now where they're doing podcasts, but all in all, there's just all these people listening in all these different places, and I figured I'd just screw it up with a solo show this week. It would be nice to just geek on some of this stuff, because I'll get these things. I'll see something, I'll watch a show, or I'll have a thought, and there's just so much other things to talk about that I might not ever think to mention them. And so there are all these fun things that I'll do, like, for instance, I'll watch the Lego Movie. It's all background noise for me while I'm doing something else. I'll just throw something on, and I'll watch the Lego Movie, and I'll remember the Lego Movie is this huge commentary on current culture, the way the world is right now, and so I'll be thinking about it now. I'll be sitting here at the computer, and I'm like, all right, well, let's go look that up. Who are the creators of the Lego Movie? What are their political views? How did they come up with such a statement on the way things are in the world today? And I'll be looking at it, and I'll look, and I'll say, hey, well, Phil Lord, Christopher Miller, and Ron Howard, those are the primary guys in the Lego Movie. But none of those guys are political. None of those guys would be talking about the kind of things, exposing the reality of the world as it is in such a way that I would. Ron Howard, he's a Hollywood insider. He's predictably leftist in a majority of things, and that's a little bit assumption and a little bit of knowledge. But you don't know. In the Lego Movie, if you've never seen it, go watch it. the Lego Movie. It's about Emmett, and he finds the piece of resistance and stops the micromanagers and the big boss president guy from micromanaging the world and making it this stale presentation, by the book presentation of reality. And the main character starts out as just another cog in the wheel, just somebody like yourself, just going through the sort of day to day and maybe not even realizing how much they participate in ignoring this sort of important things, because it's hilarious. Right at the beginning of the movie, they're singing this song about how everything is awesome if you're a part of the team. If you're part of the plan, everything goes great for you. If you're not a part of the plan, it might not go so well for you. Unfortunately, I'm running up against a commercial here, so I'm probably going to have to carry this thought over, but I'm holding it in my hand. That's the point. It was what I was getting at, that I would take the time today to talk about a couple of these things and expose you to them. Some pop culture stuff, some things that are going on. I'll talk about those vaccinations. Beach balls that are coming up, COVID. I'm just filling the time today, and you get to come along for the ride. A little bit of fun, a little bit of who knows, right here on Toward Anarchy.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
You want to talk about a dystopian sort of Orwellian reality? That would be a piece of technology with a dictionary built into it that won't spell the word dystopian for you. Tells you it's not a word. When you look it up, it gives you, let me see, dystonia. And what was the other one if I tried to spell it wrong to get it to do it? Pianist? Are you freaking kidding me? That's your world. Yes, exactly. I know how to spell it. That was the point. I'm literally looking at the screen. I have spelled the word dystopian, and it's properly spelled, and it's telling me that it's spelled wrong, and it won't correct it to the word dystopia. It won't. It doesn't recognize the word dystopia. That's what I'm getting at. This is your Orwell. This is your future. This is your communications devices. This is a thing that I've been watching for years. I'll come back to the Lego thing, where the language is devolving. They talk about it in Orwell, 1984 in particular. The degradation of the language, and in particular, and again in 1984, it's just Ken and I were talking about this stuff during the break, because all of us, I think, are going around in this reality right now. Like, we feel like it's all just sort of this dystopian reality, all of a sudden come to life. It was before it was books and theory. And yeah, we know it's coming, and now we're really kind of living it. I keep joking. I've been joking from the beginning. Every time I say, oh yeah, we live in the apocalypse now. Whenever anything goes wrong, or I can't find something, or oh yeah, well, it's the apocalypse. That's the joke now. So I'll get back to the Lego Movie thing, right? It's right here in my face. This is exactly what I wanted to talk about, or one of the things I wanted to talk about, and why I wanted to talk about it, because I just don't. I'll mention it and forget and move on, because there's just so much other stuff to talk about. And then I'm thinking about making sure the guest gets in there and make sure that gets timed out. And there's just all these other things in the back of my mind. That's why taking the week off, as it were, this week, and just doing me and having a chat, chat with Ken and other people that are chatting. There's a chat room, all these things that you can find people. I was looking in the chat room the other day. I don't forget about you guys. I know you're there. I just can't. It's too much. I'm already too distracted and all over the place if I'm not specifically on something. So this is the point. TowardAnarchy.com. Look, I'm going through all these numbers. I'm seeing all these things, all these crazy. It's ridiculous. There's technically, by the numbers, by the math, there's somebody listening to this show as little reach as we've managed to grab a hold of. There's somebody listening to this show all the time. All the time. That's just what I can see. There's so much more that I can't see and that I don't have any control over, because I just am literally just grabbing it and throwing it out there and just to anybody watch it. But the thing is that so they're all there, and there's only this small percentage, and this is true. This is true of real radio. This was a phenomenon. Not that this isn't real radio. Terrestrial radio, that's the language I'm looking for. I apologize. It's the terms, whatever. Just this idea that I can be broadcasting to a town of 300,000 people around me, and a percentage of those people are listening, but then only a tiny percentage of those people give any kind of feedback. So if you would get sort of negative feedback, the thought is that it's that small vocal percentage, and it's a reality. Look at it. Look at the internet. Look at any of these places where people are encouraged to participate in one way or another, to call up, to contact, to comment back on a post. Any of these things, I myself do it. So I imagine that there are many, many more people. I absolutely scroll past 99.9% of the stuff. I almost never comment on anything. I just look, I read, maybe I'll give the like, and I'm trying to get better about this myself. One of the things that gets me is I'll watch stuff on YouTube that I appreciate, but I'll be it's this background thing. But I have it set up so it's the Xbox that runs that background stuff for me, and it's hard you can't just like click. You have to turn the controller on and bring up a menu, and then you have to move around and go to another menu, and then you can find the likes. I'm even trying to make myself do the extra few things to make sure that people get the likes and the shares, because I'm looking at these numbers and it's less than 3% of people that will take that split second to give the like and the share and the follow and the subscribe, wherever it is you're listening to. And we're on all these places, and that's what I was finding out. I have to tell you about this too. I will come back to it because it's funny, because I'll be talking about this idea of where we're at and everything all throughout the show. That's it. It's all about shameless self-promotion today. It's all about getting you to like and share and follow and subscribe wherever you're hearing the show at, whether you're with it live right now across the network, or whether you're hearing it later on Castro or Himalaya or Overcast or Pocket Cast or Podcast Addict or Breaker or Castbox or iTunes or Amazon or Stitcher or YouTube or Spotify or Spreaker or iHeartRadio, wherever it is, even Pandora someday. It'll happen. Wherever it is, like the share, the subscribe, the follow, to get these good ideas. If you're actually taking the time to listen to it, and there are people, because I watch the numbers and I see it, but like the people on YouTube, you guys amaze me. For like the 5 people that are on YouTube, they watch every single video. It's amazing. I'm being a bit facetious, but the YouTube's been an afterthought in this whole thing, and so there's only just a little bit up there as far as the actual follows. But it's amazing to be a few hundred people listen to an episode out there, and there aren't that many people on the channel. So it's about it getting out there either accidentally or on purpose by the few people that are watching every episode or listening to every episode, to make that, just take those few more seconds to click the like and the share and the follow and the subscribe, or to become a friend or whatever. There's so many, everybody's breaking off into everything now. The Lego movie thing, because this is something that I want to talk about forever. And it's because of this idea, it's a running theme within the show, something that I talk about when it's come to people being offended by creators and the people that they are in real life versus the product that they put out, the entertainment, the art, whatever it is that they do for us is separate from them as individuals. And we need to take it that way, because we need to be able to accept the beauty in the world for what it is, and accept for the ugliness in the world for what it is, and realize that they are 2 separate things, and they come from different places in this respect, in the point that I'm trying to make here. In and the Lego movies, it's such an important movie to the world, and I don't think that the creators have any clue about it. Emmett is this main character in the movie, and he's just a guy. He's just a construction worker. And he gets up literally every day and he opens up his book of Lego instructions and he follows the plan. And he's completely clueless about what's going on in the world around him if it doesn't fall into the plan. But he gets up in the morning and he's doing his exercises and he's talking to his only friend, his cat. And these are all poignant if you're aware of the song and the words that are going through the song, that everything is perfect. And the instructions that he's having to follow that are in this book, that he gets up every day and he showers and he does all of these things step by step, do this. And he turns on the TV and he catches the news, and the president of the corporation and of the world, he's the same individual. It's a shot at capitalism across the board, and that's why I think of these leftist Hollywood people, that so much of it is about the capitalist aspect of it, when it's their political system that they back and put so much money into that actually allows it to happen. They're the ones with the tanks. I don't think Walmart has any tanks. They could buy some. They could buy all they want, but they don't have any. The government does. So Emmett is just completely clueless about this, and he's watching them. He's doing his morning routine by the book, and up on the screen, the president of the world and of the Octan Corporation. That's the Lego Corporation, Octan. He pops up on there, and he's talking about, be good and follow all the rules and follow the instructions and do what's right, or you'll be put to sleep. And then he keeps going on talking about his stuff. And then like 5 minutes later, Emmett's like, did he say something about being put to sleep? And that's the kind of thing that's going on. There's a cop character. He's bad cop. He's good cop, bad cop. And it's based on a reality. Okay, the Lego pieces, one of the things that they did within the last 10, 15, I guess it's more than 10, it's probably 15, maybe even 20 now. Maybe not quite 20, is I think I can grab just about any random figure. Yep, there's one. This happens to be a Porsche driver. So he's just a person. He's not like he is a commercial character. He's got a Porsche symbol on his shirt, but he's not like a Star Wars figure or something like that. Those are really big. But if you take off the little figure's hair and look at his head, you can turn him around, and he has a different face. So like he has one expression on one side, and you turn him around, he has another expression on the other side. And so you get this appearing in the movie, in the reality of good cop, bad cop. And he's just this compromised, confused, can't decide what's right. But he's always just whatever the system says, he has to do it. He has to follow along with it, and there's just so much commentary throughout the whole thing. And so I go and I look, and I thought, oh, Phil Lord, who's that? Christopher Miller, because I'm not that guy. I can't name, as much as I love this stuff. I'm not that big of a geek on it that I can just name these people, and so I have to go look, and I look, oh, Phil Lord, Christopher Miller. And then it said something about Ron Howard. I think he was on it before. They were all the first to tackle the Solo project. The Han Solo, the Star Wars movie, another great movie. And I want to think. I want to analyze these individuals and look at them and think, where's your worldview bring you to think about this in these terms and put it down on film and put it into this piece of art and put it out into the world, and it's completely unconscious from what I can tell. The question is, did they do it on purpose? Is there something in their background that's made them want to put this kind of message out there? And there doesn't seem to be. There doesn't seem to be any connection there. And so what does it mean? What does that say about the subtext that's through there? Is what's happening in the world and in America in particular, because America is so much further behind the rest of the world in terms of socialism and dictatorships, that we're just now realizing Is it me? Is it my analysis of it that brings this out of the art? I don't think it is, because I'm pretty sure that if you put the Lego movie in and press play and someone else is around to hear it, it's still going to say the same thing literally that it said to me. Now, what I read out, I'm not reading anything. I'm telling you that's what it said. So I'm not having to read that the president guy is this conniving little controller, manipulator that has slipped it, that it's like obvious that he is this guy, and that anybody who's paying attention would notice it, and that most people aren't paying attention. I'm not reading that into it. It's the story. It's there. That's everything is awesome if you're a part of the team. If you're not paying attention to the man behind the curtain, there's those references like that. The whole Wizard of Oz controller kind of thing. And so what does that say about the subtext of reality that is seeping in to our subconscious and is causing people to wake up or to expose reality in ways that they may not even see themselves, but when it comes out in their art, other people see it and they immediately get it. It's a weird thing that I've spent some time trying to understand, and my only conclusion is this, and it's the one I have to stand behind. And there are people, oh, well, you're just excusing these people for the things that they do. I'm not. It's exactly the opposite. I'm not excusing the stupid things that people do or say. What I'm telling you is to make a separation between the bad things that they say and the good things that they say, the good things that they do, the beauty that they prevent for the world versus the ugliness of it. I'm not saying you have to ignore it. I'm saying that you have to actually accept it for what it is and realize that just because you like some piece of art or some idea or something, whatever it is, whether it's science or anything, that the people who create these ideas, they themselves, individuals, they are flawed. They are not perfect. They have never been perfect. And I would imagine that for the most part, they haven't tried to tell you that they are. They're not trying to convince you that they are. And that again, I would argue that so many of them see that they don't even realize it. That there's an underlying reality that is seeping through in art and in science and in learning and understanding that I think we're at a very crucial time in our existence. There's no question of that, but what does that mean, and where do we go, and how do we get those messages across? Well, we stop excoriating people and ideas for their failures so much as we uplift for the things that they're successful at. You see what I'm getting at? Concentrating on the positive aspects and taking the Christians are really good at this, taking the good things out of the narrative and presenting those to you. And to be honest, I'm not trying to pick on them. To be fair, I should say, not to be honest. I'm always honest with you. To be fair, I'm not picking on the Christians. The best of them, they at least will say, I mean, there's more to the story. I'm not giving you the whole story. Go read for yourself and make your own decision. So don't to go. We'll come right back here on Toward Anarchy. I like the show. I like to get up in front of an audience and sing some songs and rock out and have a good time. It's one of my things. So I've been tempted to do it, but I don't know. It's been a long, long time since I did any formal setting. Gosh, man, that was back before I had any kids. No, that's not true. Zoe was around. It hadn't been quite that. It hasn't been 20 years. Let's put it that way. It hadn't been quite that long since I played around in a rock and roll band. If a man rants on social media and no one gives it a like, has he really ranted at all? Has he? You have to like, you have to share, you have to follow, you have to subscribe. That's the only thing this way. It's the only way this thing works. This is the way. Like, share, subscribe, follow, friend me, on the social media, whatever it takes to get any good messages out, because we have. I'm not going to miss a lot of the people that are bailing for other places like Parler, because it's very much a right-wing bastion. But I agree most often with a right-wing ideology in terms of the things that they purport to support, and so it would be natural for me to do so, except that I'm not welcome there. That's what happens, is I'm not welcome there. I'm not welcome in that president. And it's funny because they're all running from people who would not welcome them. So it's like back and forth, back and forth. One had a con. Yeah, it's the numbers on the page. Yeah, that's that. I didn't solicit to have a call necessarily. I don't know what's he want. I don't take calls. I don't participate. It's up there in case somebody. It's actually up there just in case somebody actually wanted to reach me for something important, as opposed to necessarily idle chit chat during the show, because there aren't many other. I'm not going. That's a business phone number, as it were. If you wanted to sort of conduct some business, you could reach out to that line. I guess it is the actual, specifically the call-in line, but I don't know. It's just up there in case I needed to look at it, is the reality of it, because I when I'm sitting here doing the show, I have the page up there all the time right in front of me. And so if I need to think about, contact, I need to say the number. It's 800-313-9443. I don't have to think about it. It's not. I don't have it taped up on the wall. It's just right there on my screen. I click on the contact button. Oh, there it is. There's the phone. There's the phone number. I don't have to. 800-313-9443. What do you want to talk about? And he said, what did he say? I got the number on my page. All right, whatever. Let me see. I will pull up a random website and find a telephone number. I guess they're up there. That's funny. The question. What does he want to talk about? Just the fact that the phone number was up. He should have told you. He should have made it a point to tell you, because I'm not against talking to anybody on the show. It's just that I don't. I have plenty to say on my own, and for what it's worth. Okay, I'll tell you. And we're closing in on this. We still have another hour to go, but there's this short spot right here, and I hate to get into things. I'll break this. And then we'll talk about it on the other side. There's so many other things. We'll talk about COVID. We'll talk about some things that are coming up.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
We are living in an artificially induced state of consciousness that resembles sleep. The poor and the underclass are growing. Racial justice and human rights are non-existent. We have been lulled into a trance. They have made us indifferent to ourselves, to others. We are focused only on our own gain. That is their primary method of survival. Keep us asleep, keep us selfish, keep us sedated.
You're listening to Toward Anarchy on the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here's your host, Michael Storm.
Hour number 2. That was quick. Usually I get a second to breathe at the top of the hour. I did not get a chance to that time. We rolled right over. That's good, though, because continue the conversation and talk about these things. Go to towardanarchy.com. You're looking for today's date. It's the 22nd in my world. I'm alive at this moment in time. You may be listening sometime in the future. All right, well, if he's still hanging out, tell him to hang out for a minute, and I'll try to get to the topic here in a second. I want to talk about it a little bit. All right, cool. That'd be awesome. Towardanarchy.com. Look for November 22nd. That's where you're at. And I had a couple of things up there, as always, to share with you, and that's the whole point. The entire show today is just to have some fun and talk about some stuff, some things that I see that are on my radar, like the COVID thing and the mask thing. So we'll chat a little bit about that. We'll talk to what was it? It's Danny in Tennessee. Found the website and found the phone number, and he's called in. So it's cool. It's unusual because I just sit here and I talk at the microphone about my things, and usually I have a guest at this time, so I would be talking to somebody anyway. If you're at towardanarchy.com, like, share, follow, subscribe, all these words again. I'm going to keep repeating them over and over again. I made it real easy. I found that share this plug-in for the website that makes it that you can share across so many different things with just one simple or two simple little clicks of a button. The main page and each of the show pages, there should be a link right at the top of it. Right there for Facebook, right there for Twitter, right there to grab the link in an email. And then there's a whole other option, like 100 different options in there for just WhatsApp, WeChat, Telegram, Qzone, Pinterest. I don't even know what half of these things are. Etsy, Evernote. I never heard of that. Flipboard, that one sounds familiar. Dig, I've seen that before. Diaspora. Okay, I mean, they're all up there. So there's no excuse there anymore. I've tried to make it as easy as possible. So please do the like, share, follow, subscribe, whatever platform you're listening on, from the website, wherever, because that's the only way it works. You can follow Toward Anarchy on Facebook. It's just facebook.com/Toward Anarchy. And that's the easiest way to look for us on most of the places. Just type in Toward Anarchy, either one or two words, like twitter.com/Toward Anarchy, and you will find me. It's great because it's one of the things that I've been able to do. And get this, how important this is. This is one of the things that I made it a point. It was at the top of I made funny little notes this week. It wasn't even my normal, just a quick sentence or something. Every little cartoon I watched or every show I watched, I had some little thing, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll talk about that, or maybe I'll mention that. But this was right at the top of the list. Carved out my little niche of the internet. That's all I wrote down. To remember to talk about this particular thing that I've managed to do. And this is important. If you're looking to do the same thing, whether it's for a business or whether it's for yourself or whether it's for something like this, whether it's for an artistic or political or a pursuit where you need to be seen, where you're trying to figure out how to get as many people to see what you're doing, appreciate what you're doing, and take the few extra seconds it takes to click the share and the like and the tweet and the follow and all of these things to get them to do it. I'm just trying to make it as easy as I possibly can to be able to do it, because there just is this, with everything is splintered, with everything going the way it is. It tells you, this is the important point. This is what it tells you. It tells you that there are people looking for information, and they're looking for it in certain packages, and they're looking for it to be honest. They're looking for it to be natural. They're looking for a certain type of presentation, and so they're all splintering off into these little groups and going their different ways, whether it's for entertainment or whether it's social media or whatever. So the only way it works is to find like-minded people, and there's nothing wrong with that. We should be looking for it. And to reach people with these ideas is to get people to like, share, follow, subscribe, all that. But to do that, you have to carve out your own little piece of the internet. And I've been able to do that sort of literally. And you've been witness to the process if you've been with us for the last year plus now, doing this particular exercise. That was one of the points of bringing it all together like this, was to be able to do it in front of everyone as transparent as possible for me to talk about, to waste time talking about, as it were, the geeky stuff like the website and how it works and how it functions and things like that to get you to realize that anybody can do it, that a normal person can do it. I've been lucky along the way. I've had the support of the network. We have a great relationship there that's made it so that I have a home for this live presentation. But there's all this other stuff that I brought to the fold. That's the point of the network reaching out to somebody and saying, hey, we'd love to have you come in here, is to take advantage of that space, that time, to be able to exercise these other things and to take those tools and promote the network and the show and everything else that's going on as much as possible, to carve out that little niche. And I've done that, or niche if you prefer. And I've done that with Toward Anarchy, with those two words. So when whatever platform it's on, if you look for Toward Anarchy, if you don't find me, I'm not there. That's how it is at this point. And I've been able to do that across Google. It's across the Google search engine. It didn't cost me a dime. These are things that you need to know that are a reality that you can do, because while the words Toward Anarchy may not be that important, it's proof that you can take two seemingly random words really and combine them, and with a little bit of concentration and effort actually carve out a niche for yourself on the internet. If you type in Toward Anarchy on the internet, you will find me, unless you're not looking for me. Because I will be right there. I will be there in podcasts. I will be there across the social media. I will be there. The website shows up really, really well. And it's all been a proof of concept. It's all been an exercise in showing that it absolutely can be done, that you can be heard out there. Everybody's running from the social media sites. I'm not getting banned from them. I'm still talking about vaccines. I'm still talking about the coronavirus, the pandemic. I'm still talking about the Mandalorian. I'm still talking about everything I want to talk about, and I have my own space, and I carved it out, and I've done it for a very little bit of amount of money, more effort than money, that's for sure. So if you have any sort of investment possibility at all in what you're doing, you should really be able to soar. I've been scraping and clawing, not necessarily because I would have to do it that way. There's ways to find money and to do something, but there's something to be said about showing that it can be done this way. Especially now, because it's happened in the time that I've been doing this, where the whole notion of this has exploded across the internet, and the fact that everybody's home now and the lockdowns are continuing. I have to get into that particular conversation. I have to work my way in there. I have some things, because I have like quotes thinking back to so March and April and things that I was talking about then. But towardanarchy.com, November 22nd, share the links, Facebook, Twitter, that button right there that says share, across everywhere. I shared a couple of more stories with you because I wanted to follow up on a few things, and it leads into the vaccine story. It leads into Dan, who's in Tennessee, who's wanting to talk on the phone. Ticketmaster is in damage control mode-ish. I get, maybe that's my painting of how I felt it was. But they scrambled to clarify the story that I was telling you last week about their developing vaccination requirement or whatever to attend their events. And it wasn't that they were backtracking because the people were afraid of the vaccines, and this is the reason that I wanted to bring up the point, is because they actually are afraid of the health, the HICFA violations and things like that, where you violate sharing of another person's health information or something like that. That was what brought it on. It wasn't an aversion to it. Wasn't people standing up against the notion of the vaccine. Joe Rogan said he would take it this week. Oh well, you know what they say about natural selection. He should know. Who does? Who knows? The World Health Organization says that the vaccine won't help countries fend off the current wave of infections, and that was just kind of a real no kind of moment for me. Yeah, no kidding. It's not going to stop with it. So it's not going to stop it tomorrow or the next day or the next day. That's it. If it won't stop it now, it won't stop it then. The big thing about these vaccines is this week, it's a race. There are 7. Am I right? There are 7 variations of this. I've used the terms incorrectly before, and this is a lack of language for knowing what I'm talking about versus knowing what I'm talking about. They're two different things. So when I say family, I apologize because it's not the right word. The right word is not coming to me in terms of epidemiology off the top of my head, and it may not. But in this family of viruses, the SARS family, these are related. COVID. There's 7 of them, and of the 7 that are prevalent, there's no vaccine. There's never been a vaccine for. I think that's right, and I think that also another number is 7 years to develop any vaccine, modern vaccine. I hope I'm not confusing the two. I apologize. That's why you have to go and look at some of these things for yourself, and that's why I share the links so you can start off on the information yourself. This vaccine thing is very concerning. I said a long time ago, long before we were in the situation we are right now, it's upwards of 2 years ago, certainly in this respect, directly speaking about the specifics of a forced vaccination program that is coming. It's incipient. It's so happening. It's so going to happen that it's happening. You know what I'm saying? Is that there's no point anymore in distinguishing or trying to make any distinction between when it will happen and when it won't. It's happening. You're watching it real time, and I've been saying that since the beginning of COVID, that you're watching in real time the race to create vaccines. And so it's been wonderful for me to watch as it's been going on, because it just proves everything I've ever said about the subject of vaccines, that it's political, that it's panic driven, that there's minimal science behind it, that people who take them are fools, foolish. We'll say foolish. And that there are also different types, and there are different functions for vaccines, and there are different ways and that you can go about introducing things into your body to try to get yourself to build up an immunity to them, and violating your biggest protection against the world, your skin, by putting things through it and into you on the other side of it, is probably not a good start. And I've always made that case. And we're at a very dangerous point right now, and the reason it's dangerous is because there are people like us, there are people like me who are not going to put up with it. I'm not going to stand for it. It will not happen. You will not inject my family with anything. You will have to send more people than I can amass with more guns than they can amass when it comes down to it. But I don't even want to go down that road. But other people will, and this is the point that I'm getting at. Other people will easily, much more quickly pick up arms to try to take on the state than I will, because I get that there's other ways to do this thing. In this case, I would just sue everybody. The second somebody starts I would just sue everybody. Because everybody's afraid of that. They're actually afraid of being sued. They're not afraid. The government is hardly afraid of many more things. But when you actually start hitting people in their pocketbook, you start taking money out of people's pocket or threatening to. They seem to stand up and notice. And so I would use their own silly system of laws against them. There is nothing. There is absolutely no authority whatsoever that exists within the foundations of this nation that suggests that the authorities can force medical practices on us. The fact that you have let them do this for years and years by capitulating, by showing up at the polls, by saying they have a say in your love life and your marriage life and your health life and all these other things, what you do when you show up to the poll and say it's okay that we put this up for a vote, and saying, instead of saying that it never should have been voted on in the first place, this is what you get. You got what you wanted. You wanted this is what confuses me, I guess, is I don't even know what you wanted. I really don't know what you wanted, because I guess it comes down to that safety thing. Everyone wants to feel safe. I never understood that, and maybe it comes from never having felt safe. I don't know. I grew up in the city, a single parent, mother, single child, only child, no brothers, sisters. From town to town, to state, to school, maybe not as much as some people, but more than normal people. And that's, 4 or 5 states in my youth, all while I was in grade school, before I hit sort of 6th grade, and uncounted schools in there, places of time. I mean, I've never felt safe or secure in any sense of like I could just sit back and let the world go on without me, without actively participating in my little portion of it, and that would be my suggestion to everyone when it comes to all of these questions that we have regarding what we do about government and what we do about authority and what we do about the fact that it's out of control. And to me, it's really simple. I haven't used the phrase in a while, but you need to hear it. Parallel systems, parallel modes of thinking, parallel ideas. These are alongside. That's what para means. It means alongside. So you're paraprofessional, paralegal. They work alongside professionals. They work alongside actual legal professionals, and that's it. It's so you build parallel systems. You build things that really work, that replace those things that government has taken over, and you let government die on its own. Come back. Let Danny jump in the conversation. We'll talk about some masks. Are you watching how quick it didn't sneak up on you. You could say it snuck up on you, but you can't. If you were paying attention, none of this is sneaking up on you. None of the masks, the vaccines, all of this is expected by anybody who's been paying attention. It was only just a matter of time. It was only what was going to be the trigger. Would it be terrorism? Would it be school shootings? Would it be, I don't think maybe as many people were paying attention. There's certain groups, individuals out there that absolutely could have said that it would be something like COVID that would be the final straw to break the camel's back. I kind of made the argument myself, and I think it's happened. I think that the masks, the fact that people are so easily willing to wear the masks on both sides, there's not nearly the amount of resistance that there seems to be from my point of view. But Dan is in Tennessee, and he heard me talking about the masks, and he had some thoughts. Have you seen something different? What are your thoughts on the masks, Dan?
Oh, well, main thing I was calling you about was I sent you a couple of emails dealing with that subject. And I sent a notice to local public officials about the real science behind the mask, and the real science is that they don't do anything worthwhile, and they can be harmful. And so got more steps thinking of doing, but...
Okay, no, that's great. I see the emails here now. I'll take a look at them, and I'll see what's in there. I had thought about resharing this because I knew I'd be talking about this a little bit today. But then this World Health Organization thing and the Ticketmaster thing, because I'd already been talking about the Ticketmaster. So I just stuck with those. But I did go and grab the link if I wanted to talk about it to make sure that I would have it right here at my fingertips. And this was I had shared this before. This is a non-pharmacological measures in a pandemic, influenza, in non-healthcare settings, personal protective and environmental measures, May 2020 from the it's a policy review. It's an article. It's University of Hong Kong. Number of different authors across the board on it. Ultimately, yeah, this thing says that outside of a medical environment where people are washing their hands constantly, as they do, the masks just don't work. And so that's what is that the gist of what you sent me then?
Well, that was one of the things that I sent. There's also another sort of a review article that went through a lot of other articles published through the years. Mm-hmm. And so, like the first one I have there that presented to them was 1920, when they made a decision that giving masks to the public wasn't worthwhile. And all through the years,
that's this particular one that I was looking at. This is on the CDC website, and that's what it was, is that they went back 74 years, I believe was the number, and they looked at exactly what you're talking about, all of these instances where they had looked at masks in these settings and decided whether or not. So this wasn't just a sort of, do these things work or don't they? This was a look at medical science over the past 74 years that says that there's no evidence to suggest that these masks will help stop the spread.
Right.
And so there you go. And this wasn't that hard to find. I didn't have to go digging for this. This fell in my lap one day. It wasn't that hard to figure out. And it makes sense to me that it doesn't, because what we're talking about is well, one, these people aren't. I saw this disgusting thing about the kids, and I know it's true because my wife is a teacher in school. Everybody's locked down again now, but they weren't for the last 9 weeks. They had been in classes, and the parents aren't changing the masks. The kid comes with the same mask every day, and whether you don't know whether they've been washed. And then I saw this thing about they had taken some cultures from children's masks and put them in the old petri dish and just watch the bacteria grow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what are we going to do about it, Dan?
Well, since I have now notified the local public officials about this, and they still issued an order the day after I sent it in, but also plan on contacting the Chamber of Commerce about this and emphasize the harm that can be done and bring up the possibility of their members being liable for requiring their employees to do this when it's known not to do anything good and may be harmful. Plus, they may open themselves up to OSHA complaints, which I'm planning on filing after I give the Commerce the chance to notify their members of this. And then start contacting some of the members, tell them that did they ever contact you about this? Just let them start fighting each other.
Yeah, and then us real people out here just take off the mask and stop complying. I some business partners, and we were in a meeting last night, and And one of them brought up something about, oh, people, they're marching all over the world. I said, yeah, people are, but businesses aren't. Businesses are going along to get along because they've been told that they can't conduct business if they don't have the permission of the state. And so they're going along. They're doing what the state mandates, and it's bad for us as people, as individuals, because the corporations, all of them, especially as a group, hold such big power over the government in just the dollar when it comes to the money,
Mm-hmm. Well, I sent you a second one with a picture of the mask that I wear sometimes.
Yeah, I saw that. That's great.
On it.
And I like that.
If they complain about it, I ask them, well, what standard does it fail to meet? Because it meets all the standards. There are no standards.
I've been tempted. I have an executioner's mask. I think I may have shared a picture across the website at some point, but I don't remember specifically. But yeah, I have this executioner's mask, and if you know the executioner's mask, it's like literally the opposite of what you want. It leaves the mouth and sort of area all open, and then everything else is covered. I've been tempted to wear that around town just to be a jerk.
Okay, well, I just wanted to get that to you because it kind of fits your subject, and I thought other people might like to do something like that if they're a activist type, to start putting pressure on the local officials to stop doing this harmful stuff like they're doing.
Well, I appreciate it, Dan. I mean, that's the reality of it. Everybody's got to take on their little corner of the world, their politicians in their backyard, whatever it is. That's how we do this thing. This is how we win this whole thing back, as it were. It's grassroots, the people on the streets doing what we do. Mosquito netting mask. There you go. I can imagine some different fun things. I appreciate the call, Danny. Thanks for listening in, my friend. You take care, brother. That's the question, I guess, when it comes down to these things, right? What do you do about it in the end? Danny's got a point. Put some pressure on the politicians that are doing this. And that was I alluded to that earlier in the show when I was talking about the Pizza Hut thing. And I would just sue. I would take Pepsi-Cola and Pizza Hut, and I would name individuals. It would be the presidents and managers, and it would be the governor of the state of Kansas and the lieutenant governor, and any single individual who put their name anywhere on or near an illegal mask mandate. I would see them in court. We'll be right back. Do a couple of things. I don't want to dwell on the COVID stuff because I just want people to realize that it's a dangerous time right now, and I think that people don't. Okay, there's the people that are obviously they support these sort of things, the mask mandate and the forced inoculations and things like that. And so those people are completely out of the subject. But then there's this whole other middle ground of people that just don't know. They just don't know. And so we just have to kind of keep dropping the information out there. These documents like the ones that Dan just sent to me, that masks are neither effective nor safe, the universal masking in hospitals in the COVID-19 era, and that article that I had shared. I'll share it again. I love it when. What's that? Oh, nothing. The microphone just came on. I thought you were saying something to me. I just heard the microphone pop on, and I can tell. Was it? Oh, it was on the CDC website. I love it when that happens, where you just go and it's right there, and they can't hide it, and it's a study of years and years of information in a clinical setting, and it's hard to to refute those things if you're a person who actually believes in a scientific method as opposed to scientism, which is what the politicians do. They believe in scientism, and it's unfortunate because they actually have a lot of times real scientists behind them that are pushing that, and it's for their political agenda, it's for their pocketbooks, it's for anything but the safety and security of the people. There are so many more things that are so much more dangerous to people, and so you then say like the COVID-19 virus thing. There's so many people that it doesn't affect them physically in the terms of the numbers of what COVID does to other people versus like smoking or drunken driving or something like that, or even the flu. From day one, the second they said COVID-19, I said, watch what's happening. I said, watch the flu numbers. I said, watch how they manipulate things. Watch them push toward finding a vaccine. I've been at this all along, and so I haven't been wrong in any of this so far in my assumption of what would happen and why it's going to happen. And so I think that we can expect that things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. And I hate to say that because I don't want it to be that way, but this push, this ignoring of any real scientific evidence to suggest that the things that are going on, the idea that there are so many things that are so much more dangerous to us, but that aren't controlled and manipulated by government, it stinks to me of fear. It stinks to me of the New World Order, if you will, of the conspiracy, of the idea that there are a small number of people in powerful positions that are manipulating things for the purpose of control. Not just it's one thing for the sort of military industrial complex to do its thing to keep itself alive, which is to start wars and to encourage wars and to encourage our leaders to go into these conflicts and these wars. And it's another for the larger whole of what you believe to be a benign industry of healthcare that's manipulated at its core from its roots, from the beginning, from day one when these people are taught the ideas of healthcare. They're not taught in terms of really improving people's health so much as this is what we do inside the pharma system, and this is how you will react within it if you want to be an individual licensed to practice health care. That's it, or to provide health care services. And to me, that absolutely is the bottom line. It shows without question to me that it's a manipulation, because there's so many more things that'll damage you and hurt you throughout your life that you do voluntarily, but this is a hidden enemy. That was the thing about terrorism. It's a hidden, unknown enemy. It could occur for any reason at any time. They're politically driven madmen or religiously driven madmen. That wasn't good enough. But the fear of a literal, invisible killer, something that you can't see, and that scientifically we know we can't fight. There's never been any scientific evidence to suggest that we can fight these things, that something like a true Spanish flu pandemic, something like that, actually has to run its course through the population. That's how it works. Everybody gets it in this world where everybody's connected. And is Sherry still there? We go... She is?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, okay. I was going to say we'll bring Sherry into the conversation since people are calling. Why not? Um, because I'm kind of curious about what other people are seeing when you're in my state. So I'm wondering if
Yeah,
you see.
that's why I called. You're up in
Yeah,
the belly of the beast.
yeah.
I'm about 50 miles from the Oklahoma border.
I see. And so then you see the same thing I'm seeing. There's a lot of talk of people not wearing masks, but there's a whole lot of people wearing masks.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there's a collective sheeple thing going on. And, it's not so bad here in the rural area, but there's still a lot of stupid people. And it's, I had to dig out my Kansas Constitution. And I looked under the executive powers, and it doesn't say anything about them making laws.
Let alone passing mandates. I mean, I get the idea of trying to provide good information and to suggest to people that they do things that might positively impact the health situation. But this idea of mandates, this idea that they can close down businesses, that they can make this decision across the board for the economy, it all stinks to me of a complicence in control and spreading fear unlike anything ever. It was different when, like I said, it was different when it was this so-called military-industrial complex. That's what they do. They start wars. They get you to build up your defenses. They get you to spend money on the war machine. Okay, that makes sense. But this is the literal health of the entire planet we're talking about here. And how are we going to let the same thing, the same industrial complex, but this in this case, this medical industrial complex, force us to look at this in terms of money instead of in terms of actual health benefit? And then for the state, for the governors, for these crazy people in Michigan to do Pennsylvania. I keep hearing it across the board. It's happening across the nation and around the world. We're going backwards, and it's locking down, and it's getting worse. And to me, I just don't see turning back from it.
Well, it really gets back to the germ theory versus the terrain theory. And the more you look into the terrain theory, the more you think especially the fraud going on with Pasteur on. I mean, I tell you, have you seen this book, The Contagion Myth?
I've not read it. I am familiar with it, and I'm familiar with the concepts in it. And it's good that you bring that up, because I have opinions on it in the simple understanding that the effective result is the same, and that what we ultimately should be doing is encouraging good health among people, and then of course the larger questions of how you go about treating things within the medical industry for the differences in the virus theory versus the terrain theory, and I think it's a good conversation to have. I just hope that people don't get distracted by it and it becomes another one of these, you're right or wrong things versus the effective result.
Well, the thing that convinced me is the things that in the field of microscopy, Rife, and then Gaston Nissan's, and Gaston Nissan's microscope, and he was in Canada, originally from France, and the things he could see with his microscope just throw a whole wrench in their germ theory, but they were going to let him, and this was back in 1989 was when they took him to court, and he was able to beat it through his lawyers. And I'm sure he's probably dead by now because he was born in 1924. But he the things he could see, just throw a wrench in their germ theory. And they just did all they could, him and Rife, to keep this information from, I'm sure the military has probably rebuilt, has probably his technology now. They know what's going on, but they're probably using it against us.
Well, and that's the question is, when you see so many things like this happening over and over again, you see the manipulations of the Salk trials. You see, it's across the board. This compromised medical industry, certainly in America. I just assume the rest of the world is completely compromised, unless they're just in a hut somewhere and practicing their own understanding of the world and not being bothered by too many people. It's so bad when what that suggests is exactly what I'm saying, that that we're looking at the fear. We're looking at creating and instilling fear of people by something that they can't know or can't understand or can't see, or all of those three at once when it comes to a questionable theory, attacking you instead of you actually maintaining a good sense of your health and your environment and the things that are around you and the things that you're taking into your body as a regular means of fueling it, and the sugars and the starches and the things like that actually cause the free radical destruction of the entire system. It tells me. For some reason, it doesn't tell other people, when it's so glaringly obvious to me that it's manipulated, that you cannot trust the medical establishment any more than you can trust anything that is. It's not the market. It's not the market behind it. It's not the money, because money, when it's allowed to flow, current flows like it's supposed to, it'll go where it wants to go, and it'll go to the good things that actually produce real world results. In this case, we have the political thumb pressuring from the top down, the bottom down, from every single direction when it comes to the medical establishment, from its controls over the education system to its controls over the ADA to its controls over the laws of practicing things or making things or scheduling something as a drug. It just every single aspect of the medical industry is politicized. So it's not about markets. It's not about money. Of course, it is underneath, because they wouldn't put the political pressure on it if they couldn't get the money out of it. So many people wouldn't go along with it, I don't think, if there wasn't money to sustain the political pressure, for sure.
Yes, and I do blame the education system. But anyway, I've got one question.
Sure.
Are there any rumblings up there about impeaching Kelly when the legislative session starts?
I don't know. I know that there are in certain circles, but whether those circles are actually really political circles that can do, I doubt it. I don't see it happening. Because the fact is again, I see the effective result on the street, that people are wearing the masks, so they're not complaining. There's nothing to impeach her for if the people don't want to impeach her,
Okay. Well, it's good talking to you.
Yeah, it's good talking to you. Thanks for calling, and you stay safe down there.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. That's absolutely Governor Kelly. That's who we were talking about when she said Kelly. That's our governor here in Kansas, and she has enacted. She was one of the first. Kansas was on the ball. Boy, we shut down schools and instituted curfews and mask mandates and all that. It just happened. They just instituted another one this week, and they're cracking down on it. They were out on the streets last night looking for bars and restaurants that were open after 9 p.m. We'll be back on Toward Anarchy to wrap it up. Just have a few more minutes. Let me tell you what's coming up next week because I'm excited about this. We're talking about the COVID thing, and it just happened that we had some people that wanted to jump into the conversation. So cool, fun. We're going to talk about it again next week. We'll talk about it more in depth because I will have a guest again next week, and it will be Rachel Nielsen. Remember Rachel? She's a nurse, and she is she's on the western slope of Colorado, and she's been working. I don't know. I have not asked her exactly what she has. She just immediately, when I said, hey, you know what? It's about time you come back and we talk about this thing again. She's like, let's do it. We'll get my stuff together. I'll put my stuff together and we'll get together. So I have no idea yet exactly what she has in store for us. But as a nurse, as somebody who's worked in the medical industry and has presumably this entire time been going through this as somebody on the inside, we'll get to hear from her again next week. We'll talk to her. And we'll find out what she thinks about this, the fact that we're going backwards and that they told us this. This is something I mentioned earlier in the show that I wanted to talk about, quotes in relation to this, and that I've been watching this thing all along. I said this in reference to a particular article I read. The stay-at-home orders may take months to lift, but that's problematic as cases are guaranteed to go up. And that was in reference to them testing more and more and more people. The cases are guaranteed to go up, and it's seasonal. So we're at now the part of the year where they told us we would be. They wrote a script on this thing, and they've told us all along exactly what is going to happen if you're paying attention. And so if you're paying attention, the next thing is forced vaccinations. It won't be so overt as them boots marching down the street. In some cases it may be, and it may get to that point. It very easily could get to that point. I think the vaccination thing is a breaker for a lot of us out there, because I'm not going to take on the government, but they're not going to take me either. There's a line, and I think that there are other people that are even more they're just, I don't know, maybe they have delusions. I'm afraid that's what it is. I've talked about this with the book boys and things like this, and this notion that you're going to stand up right there on the spot when they come to get you. If you have waited to the point to do something about this, that the boots are already marching down the street, you've waited too long. It's too late when they come knocking on your door. You better be ready before that. Rachel Nielsen is on the show next week.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.